Hey, what's up, everybody? I want to welcome you to another episode of the Dreamerspro Daily Recap, where we give you a recap of all of the hot topics that we covered that day. You can catch them in their long format and also catch it fully streaming for free on Apple Podcasts. Let me go ahead and get into this topic here. So yesterday, some pretty serious news came out in the sports world with the passing of O.J. Simpson at the age of 67. I believe, let me just confirm, I think it's either 67 or 76. Yeah, he passed away at the age of 76, excuse me. So he passed away yesterday, and various people in media, on the news, wherever, were weighing in on, the news. And apparently he was battling with cancer, something that he revealed on Cameron and Mace's show, It Is What It Is, because I think he used to make guest appearances on there. So what happened? As you guys know, there was a murder trial that he was acquitted for killing his ex-wife and her lover, where I think a lot of people believe that he did it, although the justice system acquitted him for that murder, on that murder trial. So yesterday, there were going to be a range of emotions in terms of people responding to this news. So what happened? The face of ESPN, Stephen A. Smith, was asked to weigh in on the passing of one O.J. Simpson. And to the surprise of many, Stephen A. Smith started to condemn him and say some pretty harsh things about him in his passing. And today we want to actually play an audio and also read from an article just to go over some of his quotes that he mentioned on the airwaves of ESPN. So what we want to do is want to play exactly what Stephen A. Smith had to say here on ESPN when asked about this, and then we're going to read a little bit more about it. Take a listen to what Stephen A. Smith had to say here.
People believe that he committed those murders. I know that if I was on the jury, he would have been under the damn jail. I know that much. I believe he was guilty, but I don't know. I'm talking about based on the evidence that was placed before us during the trial, overseen by Judge Lancito. This is what we saw on national television, and by most accounts, you found yourself believing he was guilty as hell. And in the end, that's what this comes down to. Again, you don't want to say that devoid of a heightened level of sensitivity on this particular day towards his family, who is innocent of all of that stuff. They have nothing to do with it. They can't control his actions, but based on his actions that we all witnessed on trial over national television for months upon months at a time, by and large, the belief is he's guilty. So you're not going to hear nor see an abundance of people feeling a lot of sympathy for him today. The Lord will deal with him.
So you heard what Smith had to say there. Now I want to read from an article that I got from T-Town Media. Just read some of his comments. And it starts off with the headline: Stephen A. Smith blasts O.J., the Lord will deal with him. Continues on. Stephen A. Smith is convinced that the late O.J. Simpson slaughtered his wife, Nicole Brown, and her friend, Ron Goldman, and declared the Lord will deal with him. The 56-year-old sports broadcaster hit out after Simpson's death from cancer at age 76, announced by his family on Thursday. Even though the shamed former NFL player was acquitted of the 1994 double murder of Nicole and Ron, Smith told First Take, "I know that if I was on that jury, he would have been under the damn jail. I know that much." Continues on. "I believe he was guilty, but I don't know. I'm talking about based on the evidence that was placed before us during the trial, overseen by Judge Lancito. This was what I saw on national television. And by most accounts, you found yourself believing he was guilty as hell. In the end, that's what this comes down to." Stephen A. Smith then added Simpson's acquittal was likely the result of the work of the Dream Team defense, which was spearheaded by attorney Johnny Cochran, as well as the incompetency of prosecutors. He said, "We're not also going to forget how Marcia Clark and Christopher Darden were as prosecutors, but that's a test case of what not to do as prosecutors. You've got a glove with blood on it, and that obviously shrunk over a period of time, and you tell the man to try on the glove. That's not going to work. Everybody remembers that. I think Johnny Cochran, ultimately, his firm went national, and he became a household name as a result of the OJ trial. Smith also referred to his infamous moment in Simpson's 11-month double murder trial when the former athlete's hand appeared not to fit into the blood-stained glove found in his property the day he was arrested on suspicion of butchering Nicole and Ron, prompting Johnny Cochran to say, "If it doesn't fit, you must acquit." He added, "No one forgot that line by the late, great Johnny Cochran." You don't want to say that devoid of a high level of sensitivity on this particular day towards his family, who were innocent of all that stuff. They had nothing to do with it. They can't control his actions. But based on his actions, what we all witnessed on the trial over national television for months upon months at a time, by and large, the belief is he's guilty. So you're not going to hear nor see an abundance of people feeling a lot of sympathy for him today. The Lord will deal with him. So those were Stephen A. Smith's comments. And to put it lightly, a lot of people were upset with him for taking such a position, especially with the part of the Lord will deal with him. This is a very, very sensitive matter, and I know various people have come out with some very strong opinions. One of them in particular has been Doug Opley from FS1. He said he doesn't feel any sympathy and he got what he deserved. And other people have come out there with some strong positions. I think in a moment like this, I don't really think there's any need to pile on. If people feel like his death was justice served, then let it be that. Obviously, I'm too young to follow that trial, although I know that it was something that essentially captivated the world, where 90 million people watched that Bronco chase on the highway. So it was something unlike anything we have seen before and probably will ever see again. So the O.J. Simpson trial was absolutely huge, and there are a lot of different things that went on in terms of racial undertones and the jury. It's so many different things. But to take that particular stance and to say that the Lord will deal with him, man, that's a pretty rough thing to say, given that the man just passed. Now, obviously, some people are going to feel differently about it, especially based on the things that I'm saying. But a lot of people are not happy with what he had to say there. So the news yesterday dropped that O.J. Simpson passed away at the age of 76 due to a battle that he had with cancer. Now, if you know anything about O.J. Simpson, he became one of the most polarizing figures in media after the alleged 1994 murder trial, where he murdered allegedly his ex-wife and her lover, right, in a jealous rage. Ultimately, he went to court. And he was acquitted by the justice system, something that a lot of people felt like was wrong, and that they felt like the jury let him off, all of this stuff, right? And various people have had thoughts about OJ over the years, including Shannon Sharpe, who used to be on Undisputed. And during his time on Undisputed, he's had some very strong thoughts about OJ, especially when we found out he was going to be getting out of prison after the incident that he had with his memorabilia and all of that stuff, right? So yesterday, they were discussing his passing on Nightcap between himself and Chad Johnson. So they were there talking, and they were essentially reacting to people like Stephen A. Smith and others who were basically happy for the fact that he's passed away. And some people have expressed their how happy they are, like good riddance and all of that. Stephen A. Smith said the Lord will deal with him and all of that, all of those different things. And essentially, Shannon Sharpe and these guys were basically going after these people for basically like wishing death upon the guy and being happy that the guy passed away. So for those of you who didn't hear what Shannon and Chad had to say, they want to play what they had to say for you now, and then we're going to come back and react to their comments. Take a listen to what they had to say there.
But Caitlyn Jenner tweeted, very tacky, very distasteful.
Yes.
Basically what it said was good riddance. No matter what you think of someone, Ocho, you don't celebrate someone's death.
You never do that. You never do that. Never, it's one thing about God. God don't play. You don't celebrate nobody's death. Even if you despise that person based on personal issues y'all might have gone through. Now you have to remember. Now, OJ, murder, the case, he was acquitted, but obviously was tried in the civil case. Now, also, again, God don't like ugly. If I'm not mistaken, sister, brother, Caitlyn Jenner also had an issue. 2015, Fatal car accident. Kill somebody.
What? Hold on. No, hey, you didn't.
Yeah,
no, she didn't. Now, everything in the OJ, people allegedly he killed Nicole Brown Simpson
yes, sir.
and Ronald Goldman.
Yes, sir.
He went on trial. 12 men and women. A jury of his peers says we don't believe he did it.
Yes, sir.
Beyond a reasonable doubt.
Right.
They acquitted him. He went to trial on the civil charges. He was convicted. So you mean to tell me there's no denying that at the hands of Caitlyn Jenner, someone lost their life?
Yes,
so
sir.
how would she feel? Now, if I'm not mistaken, I don't recall her spending not one day in jail.
Yes, sir.
But you say good riddance. You happy for the death. You know, God don't like, my grandma used to always say when I was a little boy, Ocho, God don't like ugly. No. Sometimes he don't like pretty.
Yeah.
And you better be careful.
You got to be careful because you never know your time is up. Every time we born, we all come with an expiration date. Now, we don't know what that day is, but what you don't want to do is you don't want to speed it up because the tongue is powerful. If you're going to celebrate somebody else, listen, if you're going to celebrate somebody else's death, now you got to be careful. And God can show you better than he can tell you.
Yes.
So you heard what they had to say there. What are my thoughts on their commentary? Well, the part about them, about the people not celebrating his passing and being happy about it, there are a few ways to look at it. Number one, there are a lot of people that felt like OJ got off. Some of them felt that maybe the prosecution wasn't strong enough, and the defense team with Johnny Cochran and then the rest of them, they just were able to basically save him, right? And a lot of people feel like it's something that he's had coming to him for a long time. That's why a lot of people were, you know, after he had the issue with his memorabilia and all of that, the judge basically threw the book at him. A lot of people felt like the judge came down so hard on him because of the 1994 trial that he got away with. Like, we finally got him now, right? So there are obviously always going to be people that feel like, hey, you know, good riddance, right? Now, there are people that do relish in when their adversaries perish. There are people that actually get very, very hyped, like, you know, this guy that I'll be so happy that the day that he's gone, and then you find out that the day that he's gone, you start celebrating. Now, Chad Johnson brought up something about not celebrating that kind of stuff, and he was speaking from a biblical standpoint. Why? Because in the Bible, the Lord warns us of relishing in moments where he's disciplining our adversary. So essentially, God doesn't like it that, for instance, let's say someone is bothering you, and then God begins to deal with them, right, and handle that battle for you. If you start to relish and enjoy the fact that that person is being dealt with, is going through pain for the stuff that they went through you, if in your heart you begin to enjoy that, then the Lord will remove his wrath upon that person and put it on you, because you're not supposed to relish in that. That's from a biblical standpoint, right? But obviously, a lot of people are not Christians, and maybe some people who are Christians may not know that, or maybe they may just decide to overlook that aspect of the Bible. But to hear Shannon Sharpe, who has had some very, 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 very strong positions against OJ, especially for how OJ shunned the black community, and I remember him going off on him on Undisputed that day. Even Rob Parker was there on that show. To hear him kind of come to the defense of him, it seems like Shannon was indifferent. I don't think Shannon celebrated his passing, but I think it struck a chord with him to see other people like Stephen A. Smith and others relishing in his passing. Is it something that you control? Well, absolutely not, because human beings are human beings, right? You can't control how people are going to feel about a particular subject matter. People have the right to feel how they want to feel. I just think that you have a moment in which these gentlemen are pushing back and saying, wait a minute, you guys shouldn't be celebrating too much. This is in a moment of celebration. But of course, maybe the victims' families, they will obviously feel some level of vindication. But that's different, because that's the victim's family, right? The alleged victim's family. So, or who lost their daughter. So to me, once again, I'm just surprised by it. You notice I'm not getting too much into this case because, one, I wasn't even old enough to follow it. I was only 7 years old, so I don't really have much to say except what I've read about it, what I've seen, various series on it, etc. But I thought it'd be interesting to present this to the audience. And once again, I'm surprised that Shannon took this position, given how strongly he spoke against OJ. So as you guys know, the playoffs are pretty much right around the corner. I am very, very excited for the play-in tournament starting on April 16th. And I'm very, very excited for that first round of the playoffs, especially most of the Western Conference series. I won't be watching. I probably won't watch any Eastern Conference series. I think all the fun is in the West. We put up a poll a few days ago and thousands of people voted, and 80% of them said the West is the more interesting conference. And I don't think that's any surprise. Like, they got the best teams, right? So I'm looking forward to that. But as we currently speak, we're still waiting for teams to understand, like to get a understanding of who's going to be playing who, blah, 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 blah. But one playoff matchup we do know is going to be between the Clippers and the Dallas Mavericks. Now, it hasn't been determined whether the Clippers will be the 4 to 5 and vice versa, but those are going to be the two teams that are going to be facing each other. And it turns out this is going to be the third time that these teams are actually going to be colliding over the last 3 years, right? They faced once in 2020. They faced another time in 2021. And now they're going to be facing each other again in 2024, right? And I was there. I saw all of those playoff series, right? And the Clippers won every one of those series, although they were very, very entertaining. I think one of them went to 7 games. I think the other one went to 6 games. I think the one in 2021, I can actually verify this. In 2021, it went to, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, 7 games. I could be wrong, but anyway, these guys have faced off against each other quite a few times, right? Now, what has been the narrative about this series? It's always been that Luka Doncic dominates the Clippers. And to be quite honest, Luka Doncic is averaging 33.5 points per game with 9.5 assists and 8.8 rebounds in the 13 games he's played in his career against the Los Angeles Clippers. So he has been playing very, very well against the Clippers, right? But there's been this narrative that Luka Doncic cooks Kawhi Leonard and he cooks Paul George, right? These are just haters trying to do this. And, so therefore they're like, oh, I thought Kawhi Leonard was a great defender. I thought, why is he always cooking him? And I'm like, but that's never been the case, right? But then it looks like just yesterday, this same hating ass narrative reared its ugly head again on Nightcap with Shannon Sharpe and Gilbert Arenas, where both of them were just up there pretty much capping it up. And I texted Gil this morning, telling him that, you was capping. He never was cooking Kawhi Leonard and all of that. So what we want to do is we want to play what these two haters had to say on Nightcap yesterday. And then we're going to come back and get into the show. Take a listen to what these gentlemen had to say here.
Because look, their problem is never going to be offense. Their problem is going to be stopping people. They're going to look, we know Luka and Kai between the two can give you 60 easy on a nightly basis. So that's not going to be their issue. They can get hot from 3 with Hardaway Jr. We know Luka can get hot. Kai can get hot. PJ Washington can get hot. So we know they can score. Mm-hmm. But in a nip-tuck ball game, can you get stopped? Clutch time. That's what playoff basketball a lot of time comes down to. Last 5 minutes, game within 5. Mm-hmm. Can you get stopped?
Well, they're playing against the Clippers, and Luka owns them. He
damn near 40.
Last 10 games alone, he's averaged 37 against them.
Yeah.
For his career against them. That means as a rookie also, he's averaging 32 against the Clippers, right?
You remember what he did? Paul George, can't nobody play defense on the perimeter? Ooh, they might be the best since Scotty and Mike. Luka said, give me each one of them. Yep. Hey, as a matter of fact, Gil, I know you ain't much of a fisherman, but in the South, we catch a fish, a small one, we throw him back. Hey, go tell your daddy about me. We catch one a little big, hey, we throw it back, go get your grandpa. So Luka was dusting all of it and said, hey, PG, go get me Kawhi. Pat Bev, hey, Whoever the best defender, tell them come see me. Wop, 45 and 15. Now, they might have won, but he was single-handedly giving them work. Now, can you imagine the confidence? Because there's something to be said. Like, I felt I could do no wrong. If I played Kansas City and the Chargers, if I ever played, it didn't matter. On the moon, on the sun, where it's 10,000 degrees, I was going to cook their ass. I believe in Luka's mind, that's how he feels about the Clippers.
No, that is how he feels about the Clippers. It's just that's his team. His team is the Clippers, and he gives them fits. If Clippers want to get out of this series, there's only one person you have to even focus on. I know they have Kyrie, but this man is Superman when he's playing against you guys. I'm going to throw a double at him early. I'm going to let him know we're not playing you one-on-one. Hey, fellas, I appreciate all your defense that you've been doing, but he owns y'all, right? He owns you like like that OJ glove. He owns you, right?
That's his.
Flame you, but he owns you. And from there, I'm just going to double him the whole time. I'm not even going to let him get a rhythm of this game. Even if I lose it, I want him mentally challenged.
Right.
But if you let him and he gets 30 and all that, we done.
So you heard what they had to say. That Luka Doncic cooks Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, specifically Kawhi Leonard. Let me tell you what actually happens and what has happened historically. Y'all know that the head coach of the Los Angeles Clippers is Ty Lue, right? What do we know about Ty Lue? Ty Lue likes to switch a lot on defense. It's one of the reasons the Clippers have the deepest or the biggest, I think the best compilation of guards and forwards in the NBA. If you look at their roster, you have Norman Powell, you have Kawhi Leonard, you have you have Paul George, you have James Harden, you have Russell Westbrook, you have Terrence Mann, and the list goes on. You have Amir Coffey, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on and on. And historically, he doesn't like the double team, and he likes you to be able to play your man. And if they call for a pick, he likes you to switch. He doesn't like for people to fight over screens and all of that to avoid the roll and all of those different things, right? So historically, what has happened is when Luka's played against the Clippers, they had a certain set of personnel. Who are those personnel? They had Patrick Beverley, and they had Ivica Zubac, who they still have. So what would Rick Carlisle and the Mavericks do? Luka would bring the ball up the court. He would call for a pick. And you keep calling for a pick until he gets the matchup he wants. And usually what would happen was he would switch on to either Ivica Zubac, who was way too slow to guard him on the perimeter and he can blow by him and hit that step back three, or Patrick Beverley, who was too small for him. And he would absolutely abuse those two players. And the reason that Rick Carlisle would run that type of offense was for two reasons. Number one, to take advantage of that mismatch, and also to get Ivica Zubac off the floor, which would then force the Clippers to then go what? Small, right? So you had that kind of thing going on, and then he countered when Ty Lue came up with a counter, which is why he's the best coach at making adjustments, and he brought in Boban and back into the game and all of that, right? But essentially, Luka was feasting on players like Marcus Morris Sr., Patrick Beverley, and Ivica Zubac. And Luka, whenever he would switch and Kawhi would be his primary defender, he would call for another pick. Now, if it's so easy to score on Kawhi Leonard and they can play defense, why do you keep calling for picks? And I can almost assure you what's going to happen in these playoffs is he's going to switch out on James Harden or try to get Zubac. Mark my word. And that's the reason why the Clippers inserted Terrence Mann into the lineup, who has more defense and he has more length and he's quick athletically, right? So the major weak link in the Clippers defense this year is going to be who? James Harden. But James Harden, I'm assuming, because Luka's not really quick-footed, they're going to have James Harden, who is not as quick-footed as well, but he has a big body. He's quite strong, 6'5", et cetera, et cetera. But some people are like, no, you're just a Kawhi Leonard fan. He cooks Luka. Let me give you Kawhi's stats against the Mavs last playoffs they played each other. Because nobody talking about the Clippers cooking Kawhi Leonard getting cooked. I never hear about Kawhi cooking the Mavs because they've beat them every series they played. What's Kawhi averaging against them the last time they faced each other? He averaged 32 points, 32.1 points per game, shooting 79 with 7.9 rebounds, 4.6 assists in a 7-game series. Some games he was shooting 70% from the field. As a matter of fact, in 4 of those games, he shot over 70%. And in the last game of that series, he shot 67%. He was shooting 60%. He shot over 50% from the three-point line 4 times and over 60% from the three-point line 2 times in that series. Who's guarding Kawhi Leonard? Who y'all got to guard Kawhi Leonard? Nobody. And he's going to feast on these dudes. He's going to feast on the Mavericks. It's going to be a bloodbath. Now let's get into the deeper numbers because some people are like, he cooks Kawhi. Let me actually give you the data here. I want to put it up for you. We're going to show you Luka Doncic's stats when he's being guarded by Kawhi Leonard in 65 possessions. In the 65 possessions that Luka has been guarded by Kawhi, he scored 22 points on 37.5% shooting from the field and 30.8% from the three-point line. That's the guy he cooks. He's shooting below 40% from the field and 31% from the three when being guarded by Kawhi. Those are the facts. That's why he never lets Kawhi Leonard guard him. Ever. When the playoffs start, let me know where you see Luka play Kawhi Leonard straight up. It will never happen. Or if it does, it'll be my mistake. What is Kawhi Leonard when he's guarded by Luka Doncic? On 35 possessions, he scored 19 points on 50% shooting from the field, 50% shooting from the three-point line. So the question is, who do the Mavs have that's going to stop Kawhi Leonard? Because I think this series is going to come down to Kawhi Leonard and Luka Doncic, and I got my money on Kawhi. Y'all can have it on Luka. I'm going to have it on Kawhi. Kawhi Leonard goes to a totally different level in the playoffs. And if he's healthy, that's what I got my money on. Another thing I think is important that we bring up is also addressing this narrative of how he owns the Clippers. He owns the Clippers, and the Clippers need to be running and hiding and running away from Luka. Oh, my God, they're afraid of Luka. But yeah, and still, Ty Lue really wanted that 4th seed. He really, really wants to play the Mavs, right? Now, why is that? Well, this morning, one of our viewers sent me something from a credentialed writer covering the Clippers for Fan Nation and is also an occasional insider for Bleacher Report, Farid Essenari. And he put up the following data yesterday on his X. Let me read it. He says, Luka Doncic has a 12-9 record against the LA Clippers, including getting eliminated from the playoffs twice. His 19 losses against the Clippers are the most against any opponent in his career. That sound like somebody that's dominating the Clippers to you? So let's cut all of this stuff about cooking Kawhi and all that never happened. Ever.